I asked you guys a question the other day, and it had to do with Bisping and Chad Mendes. They were going for each other's throats. I mean, this thing got nasty, but for me, it came out of nowhere. I know Mendes a decade. I know Bisping a decade. I talked to Chad Mendes. I work with Michael Bisping. I had no idea these guys had heat. So it just came out of nowhere for me. And I was asking you guys, I think I woke up on second base on this. Take me back a step. So it apparently all stemmed from Tim Kennedy. And Tim Kennedy took a shot at Bisping. And then somewhere Mendes weighed in and Bisping had enough venom to go around. But this was step number one. Now, I don't know that I've ever seen a fighter take more heat than Michael Bisping. I even remember Michael was getting like a reported number of 450 guaranteed, or possibly that was 350 and a win bonus, but it was $450,000 that was disclosed. And Lorenzo had said, I have never had more pushback from pay on any fighter than I've had on Michael Bisping. And what the other fighters don't understand is when I have Bisping, I get an entire country, which is the country of England. He was the biggest star, biggest fight star ever, still is. But I offer you that because it is very interesting how many people have this resentment towards the success that Michael had. And why and where does that come from? And I'll tell you, it's very simple. Very simple. Bisping was one of these guys who a number of guys could beat. But there was nobody that Michael couldn't beat. It was very competitive. There were guys that could beat him for sure at all walks of his career. From day one, an ultimate fighter and 205 pounds and 185 pounds and a top contender and the world champion. There was always guys that could beat him. But in that same time frame, there was nobody that he couldn't beat. He just needed to have his night. It was one of those deals. I mean, it's what dreams are made of. So Michael goes out, does the heavy lifting, takes the big risks, shows the deep heart, beats Anderson Silva, parlays that right into a world title fight, stops Luke Rockhold, goes into this unification bout with the biggest star of all time in George St. Pierre. I mean, there was just money on top of that and the built-in contracts and the rumors of what he made. And there was all this resentment and jealousy, particularly from other guys who go, wait a minute, I could beat him. As a matter of fact, I did beat him. Yeah, sure you did. Might be able to do it again. Make sure you know this. Luke Rockhold will attest to this. Luke's a great fighter. You might not. You might be able to beat him, but you might not. And don't ever mistake, you can beat Michael Bisping, but he can beat you too. And that always harbored so much resentment. It was as though Bisping had the right opportunities at the right time, but nobody did Michael any favors. Michael didn't have a favor getting into the organization to start with. He had to go live in the house. He had to beat up 4 of his friends just to be given the opportunity to crown the Ultimate Fighter. He had to start from there, way up at 205 pounds, which wasn't even his weight class. He never had anything done for him, ever. You tell me he was given an opportunity to fight for a world championship against Luke Rockhold? I will remind you, Luke had just beat him. I'll remind you again, it was on 8 days' notice. There was no favors ever done to Michael Bisping. Had to fight more guys than I can think of off the top of my head who turned out to be dirty athletes, gets on a plane after getting his world title taken from him, flies to a different country on 2.5 weeks' notice to take on Kelvin Gastelum. Michael Bisping never had a single favor. Nothing was handed to him. Everything was hard. Everything was meant to be taken away from him. And there was guys that could beat him. But there was never a time in his career where he couldn't beat them too.